Can you hear me? Am I being heard? Hello? Orb? Rearb? My voice might sound a little different. I'm still sick, which is perfect because I'm doing it. We're doing the Linux. Today is the day. Rejoice, all 2 Linux fans up in here. It is your time. Rise up. What I really want to do is talk about, here's the problem, here's the situation, right? Let's say you're a bird on the internet and people keep asking you, do you know this penguin? Have you seen this penguin before? You're a bird on the internet. You should know this other bird on the internet. I'm like, yeah, I kind of know them. We hung around a few times. You are a bird. You know how to do Linux, right? Please tell me install bird OS. And you know what? Who am I to say no? This also solves another problem, which is anytime someone wants to say something about Linux on the stream, I can say, go watch this one. If you're watching this one right now, in the future, you're welcome. Now, never mention Linux to me ever again. This is just so I don't have to talk about Linux ever again. That's actually the secret goal here, right? So, the year is the year of our bird lord, 2025. PewDiePie has made a video on Linux. Several other people have made videos on switching to Linux. The Valve Deckard is real and it runs on Linux. I want to believe. Please, this is the only thing that's keeping me together, right? This only thing that gives me to sleep at night is that I can run Linux on my Valve Deckard. Please, Gabe, please. Before that comes, how about we get acquainted with Linux, so we can prepare for that journey together. Because when Windows 10 and support and also the Deckard comes out, I don't think there's going to be any reason for most of the people to really be on Windows anymore. Let's be honest. What do you got? What do you got on Windows? Sketch and Snip? They discontinued it. They hate you. Paint? You gotta pay for that now. That's why I'm gonna talk about Bird OS. Who me? Why should I talk about Bird Linux? Well, I am a bird, so that's one point for me. I'm also a cybersecurity expert of more than 10 years in the field. I've worked a lot with Linux, mostly server side, doing patch validation and stuff like that. I've always used Linux, but I've never actually used Linux. You know what I mean? Using Linux at my job, I do that all the time. Using it at home, though, is I want to, but it doesn't do the things I want it to do. Still, I told myself a long time ago, and this still stands true, I'm going to swap to Linux on my main desktop once I'm able to play rhythm games and VR. Once it can do both those things, Windows is kill. It's over. It still can't do those things. Okay, it kind of can. Well, I kind of solved the rhythm game dilemma by buying a Stepmaniacs machine. So technically, I don't have that issue anymore. But VR, I still can't really run VR because I need Windows. Unfortunately, I need Windows. It's the only thing I turn my computer on for. I need a damn VR. And it's only half the time too, right? VR works on Linux fine, but if I want eye and face tracking, then I got to be on the devil's OS. VR does mostly work on Linux now. I've been kind of doing it half-half. This headset has face and eye tracking, and at the same time, it's very heavy and is falling apart. So when I don't feel like putting on the heavy eye tracking headset, I'll get the Quest 2, and it works pretty much flawlessly. I don't have a lot of issues with it other than stick drift, but that's not really a Linux thing, and it can only get better from here, right? But I know a lot of people keep asking me, if I want to go to Linux, if I want to switch to Linux, what do I do? Where do I start? What do I do? And so I'll try to explain it in a super shallow kind of look into Linux getting started, right? What's going on with Linux? How does it work? What distros are out there? What do you need to know? And then you can go install it yourself if you really want to. It doesn't even need a tutorial. Honestly, have you ever tried installing Linux? It's so easy. It's so easy. You just click next. Okay, why should you care about Linux? If you have a Windows machine right now, you're everything works, right? All my programs I want works. All the games I want to play works. Why should I switch? First of all, Windows is adware, right? I hate that my operating system has fucking ads. How is this real? Okay, here's a fun fact. Windows is the only operating system that costs money. Linux is free. Mac OS is kind of free technically. It comes with the hardware. You don't have to pay a separate license for it. Windows costs money, and then they put ads on top of that. You're paying for ads? I'm paying for the only operating system that has ads? Are you serious? Anyone who's used a computer more than 5 years is oh, well, Windows, technically, it's not. You don't have to pay for it, Oh, Linux is free if you don't value your time, ha ha hee hee. Windows, technically, is also free if you don't value your time. You know what setting up a Windows machine is to me? Getting rid of half the fucking operating system. I'm getting rid of Bing. I'm getting rid of OneDrive, whatever the hell is on there. I'm getting rid of the start menu. I don't want half of this operating system. When I install Linux, I just click next a bunch of times and then it's done. And then my computer runs the way I want it to run. It's insane how different the setup process is, okay? And you're okay, well, I know Windows, right? And yeah, you probably do know Windows because you have the muscle memory from 20 years of using it. And for context, I use all 3 operating systems on more or less a daily basis because I'm a certified freak like that. And the one I hate the most, turning on my Windows machine. Windows does not bring me joy. I am shackled to Windows until we have a better VR headset. Okay, I've talked Windows for a good 10 minutes there. Now, this is gonna blow your mind. I know a lot of people are going to gasp in horror when I say this. The Linux desktop does not solve a problem. It doesn't do anything necessarily better than Windows does. It's not going to be like, wow, I have so many possibilities now that I have a Linux desktop. The whole world is my oyster. Not really. It's an operating system. It does the same thing as every other operating system. It does things a little bit differently, but it's still, a basis of what applications you put on top of it. And generally, the amount of applications is less than Windows. It might make computers fun, which, I use a computer every day, and I want my computers to be fun. So I like Linux, right? Linux brings me joy, but it doesn't solve a problem that I didn't have. Linux, very privacy focused. You know what? I wouldn't even call it privacy focused. It just doesn't take your data. It's the only operating system that's just hey, you know what? We're not going to take your data. You can't even call that privacy focused. It's privacy absent. Is the absence of data stealing. I want Linux because I use computer every day and I want computer feel good. I don't want computer feel bad. When I use Windows, computer feel bad. Computers say, here's things to get you set up. Computers say, sign into OneDrive. Computers say, I'm putting ads on your lock screen because I f***ing hate you, right? No. That's bad computer. I want good computer. Even if you're not technologically inclined, you could probably install Linux. If you've ever done the time to reinstall Windows, you can install Linux. It's more or less the same thing. Okay, so we're gonna talk about, if you haven't used Linux, what to expect if I install Linux. You're going to be giving something up. Maybe a driver doesn't work. Maybe your keyboard's weird. Maybe your card has some old drivers. Maybe there's some software you use all the time that you can't use anymore. You have to find an alternative. Oh man, I missed this thing that I used to use all the time and now you don't have it. You're going to have to find an alternative or just live with the fact that you don't have that thing anymore. Generally, that's an okay thing. There's lots of alternatives out there for lots of software. Probably the one you're using probably has an alternative that's free or at least works on Linux. You got Blender, you got, I don't know what else is out there, LibreOffice, but finding the alternative is going to be the hard thing. And that's on you to decide what the alternative will be. Anti-cheat is also a mess. If you play any games with anti-cheat, Apex Legends, Fortnite, if you don't play competitive games, you probably won't have to worry about anti-cheat. But if you do, you will immediately notice that anti-cheat does not work on Linux most of the time. And on the things of problems and what you basically just mentioned is Linux has been around since 1992, basically. It's been around a hot minute. Some people have been using it. If you do have an issue when you install Linux, you can probably just search it on the internet and find a solution to it. With that being said, you are going to touch a terminal. You are not immune to the black box, okay? You will be typing in commands. Even if you're on one of the easiest Linux distros, you're probably going to have to type something into that dark box that has teeth and will bite you. It won't bite you, but you get the idea. If you're not comfortable with using a terminal, you cannot use Linux. It's not like terminals is this black magic kind of thing, even though it is a black box. It's just some things don't have a GUI, and some Linux users are like, well, I made this thing, and I'm not going to make a GUI for it. It could just be a terminal command. Emoji? But anyways, you're going to be touching the terminal, and some things you're going to have to relearn. There's some things you're going to just have to rewire your brain to do, and I understand some people don't have the time or don't have the commitment to do that, and that's fine. You don't have to use Linux. You know what? You can use whatever operating system you want. I will only silently judge you. I find it fun, so it's fine for me. But if you can't get past those things, having to use the terminal and having to learn some things that are different, then maybe Linux won't be fun for you. Maybe you won't find value in Linux. And like I said, the Linux desktop does not solve a problem on other operating systems. It'd be nice, if we could all have open source software, but proprietary software is good for a reason because money sometimes gets things done. And then the first question everybody has, why are there so many distros? Why can't Linux just be Linux? Why they got so many different things? There's 1,000 of them. Let me ask you this. How about you riddle me this? Why is there so many mayonnaises? Why is there so many flavors of ice cream? Why is there more than one type of mustard? Because no one can agree on what fucking mustard is. And it's the same with Linux, all right? Everyone has their own idea of what Linux should be and their own goals and their own ideals. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a little confusing, but it's not a bad thing. You just have more choice. You just got more options. At the end of the day, holistically, it really doesn't matter because all distros are still basically using the same Linux kernel, unless they're doing something weird. Some of them are doing something weird. We'll get to those weird ones. But most of them are just using the same Linux kernel. They just got a little bit of a different flavor going on. vanilla, chocolate, strawberry. It's all ice cream at the end of the day, all right? I'm going to simplify your options for you because even though there's so many distros, right? Like I just said, there's vanilla, strawberry, chocolate, mango. Sometimes mango. We'll get to mango. But right now I want to talk about those 3 main flavors that everybody knows. So there's Debian, there's Fedora, Milady, and then there's Arch. By the way, when you're choosing a distro, you are more than likely just choosing one of these. You have the illusion of choice. You got Pop OS. Wow, Pop OS is the cool new hotness by System 76. They got their own thing. That's just Debian. Oh, you got the Garuda. Oh, I heard this one's good for gaming. This one must be so cool. That's just Arch. Ubuntu, secretly, that's just Debian. Mint Linux, that's also Debian. If you can't tell, Debian's most of these. Bazite, that's based off Fedora. Cassia OS, this is also another gaming one that goes under Arch. Endeavor OS, this also goes under Arch. Manjaro, this also goes under Arch. Penguin, Nobara, that's Fedora. Okay, so are you getting a pattern here, right? Every distro that you keep hearing about, it's like, oh my gosh, Scrungus McGee just came out. It's like, it's the best Linux ever. It's probably one of these, all right? Let's explain these 3 because these are probably the ones you're gonna be installing if you're starting Linux. Debian, this one right here, this is the one that pretty much everyone thinks about when they think about Linux, right? They're thinking about servers that run Debian or Ubuntu. The system administrator on there is like, I've never restarted this machine since I started this job 20 years ago. Haha, take that, Windows. It's this one. Debian is known for its reliability. They focus on long-term support rather than new features. So a little more dated than the other Linux ones here. But if you're looking for something stable, rock solid, something with long-term support, then you want Debian. And this is why most things are based on Debian. The most popular one, everyone knows Ubuntu, that is based on Debian. Pop OS, Mint, basically all the ones that say, hey, these are good for beginners. They're all based on Debian because Debian is something we can all depend on, I would say Debian is literally the Honda Civic, the Toyota Corolla of Linux. That's, yes. Okay, the next one I'm gonna talk about is a Fedora, Milady. This is made by Red Hat Enterprises, which is a company that's known for basically server stuff, Linux stuff. I like Fedora mostly because I worked with the people. So I'm a little biased. Fedora, they like to be first at a lot of things. They like to have a lot of new releases. Every 6 months, they make a new release. So like Fedora is known for security. Like I said, Red Hat is a company that does a lot of server Linux builds. It's got the least amount of CVEs. That's something I actually care about. And a lot of people don't care about that, but I do. And it's relatively up to date. Every 6 months, you get a new version of Fedora. Once again, I'm biased, but it's a good... I just love this little guy, all right? This stuff hurts my brain. I literally said there's 3, chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry. Oh, well, let's get the strawberry. Let's get to this one, Arch. Everyone knows Arch because you have seen it in the comment sections. It's focused on being simple and bleeding edge. No like scheduled release dates for Arch are just like, yeah, we got this new feature. We're gonna throw it into the updates, whatever. You could update whenever you want. If you like to update your system every single day, Arch is perfect for you. There's gonna be a new package you could probably hit like update every hour, all right? They just keep going. It's also known for being very lean and very efficient because it's really simple. When I say simple, it's not simple from the user's perspective, it's simple from the kernel perspective, right? It doesn't add a lot of extra stuff that other distros do, right? It's just like, this is the bare minimum things we need to make the Linux kernel run. And that's all you get. Do you want a mouse on your screen? That's on you to add the mouse. Do you want a file browser? You gotta add that file browser, okay? Arch is made to be sleek, and then if you want something, the user, you have to add that. Despite saying that, it's really not that hard, especially nowadays. There's so many Arch installation scripts out there by the community. If you've ever looked up the wiki, the Arch wiki, that thing is a Linux Bible. Everything you need to know about Linux will be in the Arch wiki. If you follow the steps, you can definitely compile Arch. And if you're feeling lazy, get an install script, or get one of the distros to do it for you. You got Cassia OS, Garuda, Manjaro, Endeavor. Like, I'm not saying Arch is hard mode, unless you want it to be. SteamOS uses Arch. They switched to Arch because, they need newer packages all the time. Super fast, super simple, and bleeding edge.
Why is Grant traumatized about Manjaro?
Because they're a Linux user and they have strong opinions. There's the big 3, all right? You've got stable, solid foundation, not updated very often. Security-based, pretty fast with their updates. And then you've got bleeding edge, things might break. It's on you, all right? There's your 3 levels of Linux. This one is the one that SteamOS uses, if you care. So I've talked about the big 3. Let's talk about getting funky, getting weird with it, okay? Where's my OpenSUSE homies? The gay little lizard here. I love this little lizard. Is it SUSE? SUSE or SUSE? I think it's SUSE.
But it's SUSE. Yes, SUSE.
I'm gonna be honest, I have never used OpenSUSE. I don't know much about it. It seems pretty good, but from what I know, you can install Fedora packages, so you could use RPM, and it has a gay little lizard on it. So I like both of those things. So I'm gonna say it's a pretty good distro. Here's the new Arch. You got NixOS. NixOS is what happens when DevOps goes too far, and they're like, code is infrastructure? Everything needs to be code as infrastructure. I need to build my Linux on code of infrastructure. And that's how you get NixOS. If you love defining your OS with code, then you probably love NixOS. It's cool. I like the idea of it, defining your OS, having exactly what you put into it. But at the same time, I just want to use a damn computer, all right? I don't want to dig into a configuration file to add Minecraft to my computer. The last one I'm going to hit on is, it's Gentoo. Don't install this, all right? Unless, if you really know what you're doing, if you are the install wizard, then you can install Gentoo. This is basically the Arch before Arch existed. People on forums going, yeah, just go ahead and install Gentoo and compile your kernel. If you want hard Linux, the old hard way, the old-fashioned, I'm gonna compile my own kernel way, then you can install Gentoo. I'm not doing that. We're done talking about all the weird flavors of Linux. Now we're gonna talk about what happens when you install a flavor of Linux. What's the first thing you see? You see a desktop. Yay, yippee. What's my desktop look like? Does it matter which one I downloaded? No, not really, because you're on Linux. Your desktop can be whatever you want it to be. Your OS, or rather your Linux flavor, does not define your desktop, and that's probably one of the coolest things about Linux. So let's go over the two most popular desktop environments. First, I'm going to talk about my favorite. It's KDE. It looks like this. It looks a lot like Windows. KDE was made to be more or less a Windows replacement. You know how Windows just decided, like, you can't move your taskbar to the top anymore. We removed that feature because we hate you. You can do it on KDE. You can put these things, your little icons to the middle, to the top. They don't even have to be attached to the taskbar. KDE does so many things and is so in-depth with its customization. It can basically be whatever you want it to be. Personally, I don't really go that hard into customizing. I just kind of use KDE out of the box with a few tweaks. My first time I installed Linux is because of KDE, because I saw on an image board someone had the cube, the KDE cube. This was the thing you used to be able to do on KDE. They actually brought this back. You can spin the cube now again. I need to spin the desktop cube. I need to have a 6-sided desktop. And that's something KDE let you do at the time. So this was actually the first reason I installed Linux, to have the cube. And then I used it for a week, and then I uninstalled it because I couldn't do anything else. I forgot the best part. You see this little guy? You see this little guy? That little guy? Conky, the mascot of KDE? That's the best creature I've ever seen. Besides a bird. This guy on my desktop, yes, please. Give me all these guys. You see all these guys? I would absolutely let them in my computer. I love these guys, all right? I love KDE. I love Conky. I love all of them. Anyways, let's go to the next one, which is GNOME. If you're familiar with macOS, this is going to look like macOS to you. This is GNOME. This is one of the most popular ones. Ubuntu uses a modified GNOME. And GNOME is really nice if you like a simple design. You don't like a lot of stuff going on in your desktop. You like a clean slate. Or if you just really like macOS, I guess it's kind of the same thing. GNOME is great at staying simple. Super simple, elegant, sleek design that doesn't clutter you with a bunch of windows. KDE technically can do the same things as GNOME does, but the philosophy, is here by default. The one thing I don't like about GNOME, which some people do like, is that if you want to add anything to GNOME, you're going to have to install a plugin. Because GNOME, by default, it's made to be simple. That's a design philosophy, not necessarily a limit. It wants to be consistent. Remember on Windows when you have 3 different applications open and they all look completely different and all have a different taskbar? GNOME tries to avoid that by pushing its own theme on there and making everything consistent. That's the idea of GNOME. Everything looks nice, everything looks simple. If you want to change something about GNOME, you have to install a plugin. And that's why I don't like GNOME, because once I customize it the way I want it to, I have 20 plugins. When I could have done the same thing with KDE without any plugins, because KDE has everything. The mascot of GNOME is just a foot. So if you're really into feet, you can also install GNOME, So I only showed you 2 DEs. There's thousands of them out there because it's Linux, like I said. XFCE, there's Hyperlin, there's tiling managers, there's none. But those 2 are the ones you're probably going to mostly see when you install Linux. Okay. I have talked about how the Linux what, the Linux where, when, but there's still the most important question that I know everyone's dying to ask: where exe? Where is the exe? I cannot run the exe. And yes, you mostly cannot run exes. The way Linux works is that everything is a package, and there's multiple ways you can install that package. Generally, it's going to be from your package manager, which comes with your distro. Each one has its own package manager. Debian uses apt. Everyone knows like apt-get, so that's the most popular one. Fedora uses RPM. Arch uses Pacman, and these are all by default, by the way. You can actually use whatever package manager you want. Nothing's stopping you from installing more, because once again, this is Linux. You can do whatever the hell you want. Not only that, you can have extra repositories. Let's say, like I have Fedora, right? And Fedora has a nice amount of RPM packages, but there's one that Fedora doesn't include because some random guy in his basement made it, but he has his own repository. So I can say, hey, RPM, add this repository and then get this package. You don't have to rely on the distro manager to get packages of software. Speaking of which, Arch has the AUR, Arch user repository. A lot of users make packages on the AUR and you can go download them. Now, you're not going to get the same quality package because it's not made by the distro maintainers, it's made by a random user on the internet, but the amount of packages on the AUR probably fixes every single issue that you have. I guarantee it. If you use Arch, you are in luck because the AUR has so much on it. So packages come from your distro or from users. If you're on Arch, you have a lot of packages. But let's say I'm scared of the terminal. I don't want to touch the terminal. It's spooky. It's scary. I don't want to do that. Well, in that case, you have Flatpaks, app images, and snaps. These are 3 different kinds of packages with their own package managers, whatever, that don't necessarily require, they're not specific to a distro. So most of the time, when you install Linux for the first time, you're going to see the App Store and you're like, what the Linux has an App Store? What are you talking about? What is this, Mac OS? All those things in that App Store are probably Flatpaks. Flatpaks are made to run on every distro, and they're really nice because you just click install on the Flatpak store in your little GUI, and then you have the program. You want OBS? Install Flatpak. Bada bing, bada boom, mozzarella supreme, and then now OBS runs fine. Steam also has a Flatpak. You click install Steam from Flatpak. You got Steam, you're done. It doesn't matter which distro you're on, Flatpaks are always going to work. Outside of Flatpaks, there is app images, and app images are probably the closer you're going to get to like an exe file. It's one file, you double click it, and then it runs. Everything that it needs to have is included in there. So if you find an app image, that's probably your best bet to getting something like just working. What about drivers? How easy is getting those and updating them? Most drivers are already included in the Linux kernel. And if it's not, it is based on usually the package manager you have. So updating drivers, honestly, is easier in Linux than it is Windows, especially the NVIDIA drivers. I hate downloading NVIDIA drivers on Windows. Oh, but no, Decoy, you just have to install their bloatware piece of garbage instead, and that downloads the drivers for you. I don't want their bloatware piece of garbage. I want drivers. And in Linux, I can be like, I want drivers. And they're like, okay, here's your drivers, good to go. And it's literally just one command, so that's really nice. Snap is another universal binary package for Linux. Just like Flatpaks, just like app images, it should run on pretty much everything as long as the distro supports Snap. Okay, with all that being said, a lot of people don't like Snap because they just don't work. I'm gonna be real, they just don't work. Every time I've had an issue or had to troubleshoot an issue, it was because someone installed the Snap package. Don't use snaps, I guess, unless you really want to try. I mean, how am I gonna edit all of that? I'd be talking my ass off. I wanted this to be like 15 minutes. Anyways, if you don't know what to do or what to install, or you're still confused on this whole like, what the hell am I doing with Linux thing? I would say try an immutable distro. An immutable distro is something that's relatively new. SteamOS does it where it's based on Arch, but immutable, which means that all the files that run Arch are set to read only. So you can't mess up your Arch installation. You can't delete the files. You can't even make changes. Like even if you wanted to install a new package, it would be like, no. And it's stable that way, right? If you don't know what you're doing, that's fine because you can't change your system anyways. You can still use Flatpaks and app images and stuff like that, right? You just can't install any new packages or change any like system files. But Immutable is also kind of annoying for the same reason You cannot make changes to them. If you're like a bit of a power user and you know what you want out of your system, you're going to get real frustrated with immutable distros very fast. And a lot of the gaming distros are also immutable. There's SteamOS, Bazite. That's a really popular one. Everyone talks about Bazite all the time. They're like, use Bazite. It's the best Linux system. This is Fedora, but it's immutable, so you can't change anything about Fedora. They provide the packages, and out of the box, it runs games pretty good. Chimera OS is also another one, another immutable that's based off of Arch. Another recommendation, I know a lot of people are going to get like super salty about this, but this is just from my personal experience. I wouldn't bother with dual booting if you have one hard drive, because if you have the ISO, you can actually just plug it into your computer and you could run most distros just off of that USB drive. You can dual boot off of a single hard drive, but every time I've done it, it's just been way too much effort. If I wanted 2 operating systems, I would have 2 hard drives. I use a virtual machine if you really want to. Another thing, like if Linux asks you a thing and you don't know, just use the defaults. Click default or exit thing. Linux isn't out to harm you. Unlike other operating systems where if you click the wrong thing, you have to sign a privacy policy. You have 10 new accounts, they're sending emails to you, all right? Linux won't do that to you. If you don't know something or if you don't want something, you can press X on it and it'll probably be fine. My last set of advice, check the distro documentation. A lot of the things you'll probably have issues with is probably in there because people before you installed it and they had issues and they're like, oh, we should put this in the documentation. Trust me, you'd be like, why do I have this weird esoteric problem with this one program? I'll look at the documentation and be like, oh, it's literally right here. It's like the second thing down this line. The Arch Wiki, everything you need to know about Linux. Even if you're not using Arch, the Arch Wiki has so much stuff about Linux. It probably has the answer. Kiovo says there's a website to see all the alternatives. A lot of programs. There certainly is. I use alternative2.net. It's a website where you literally just like type in your favorite software and it says, here's all the alternatives that don't suck. So if you have something that you use on Windows, just type it into alternative2.net and it'll probably show you something for Linux. If I'm playing a video game, I would use ProtonDB. That's the site you go to see if your favorite video game works on Proton, which is what Steam uses to play all the video games. You can use Proton outside of Steam. Let's say I legally purchased SWAT 4 for sure and have the exe to install it. Well, I don't have it on Steam. How do I play it? There's fancy wrappers for Wine and Proton, Lutris, Bottles. There's several of them. And then you put that in there and then you install it like any other Windows program and then you play it. But yes, those are my notes. When everyone asks me, Decoy, what's your thoughts about Linux? And I will say video. Thank you for coming to my bird talk.